That's 5 wins in a row for the San Francisco 49ers after their triumphant victory over the Colts last night. And Brock Purdy absolutely cooked on Monday Night Football. The Niners taking down Indy 48-27. San Francisco, one of the hottest teams in the National Football League. This offense right now is clicking on all cylinders. And looking ahead to the playoffs, this team is really dangerous. Why not the Niners here to be considered as a Super Bowl contender? You look at the NFC playoff picture, and there's been a lot of changes following Week 16 going into Week 17. With the Seahawks beating the Rams in that epic game on Thursday Night Football, Seattle, the 1 seed. And with the Niners beating Indy last night, San Francisco moving ahead of the Rams from the 6 seed to the 5 seed with that 11-4 record and the better divisional record inside the NFC West. So much to get into here on the show. So pumped up all of you are here with us. And if you're pumped up about that Niners win, you know the deal if you're a real one and you watch this show on the regular. It's a Victory Tuesday, so hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. I want at least 1,000 likes here on the show, and with that, let's get the show underway right now. We're off and rolling, and of course, this is the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. As always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. And don't forget to support the show and subscribe to the channel right now. We're closing in on another special milestone here on the program. We're only 84 subscribers away from 185,000 right here on the Niners Report. And what you get when you lock us in and join the movement, daily free Niners shows right here on YouTube. Another great win for San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan's offense is on fire, and the Niners last night dropping 49 points to push their record to 11-4 on the year. What a season this has been for this Niners team. And I can tell in sensing all of the excitement from this fan base that all of you are enjoying this as well, because I don't think a lot of people anticipated this happening, right, with what has happened with this football team. Now, prior to the 2025 season, I predicted the Niners to go 11-6, but they've exceeded even my own expectations. This is an 11-4 record with 2 games left in what was supposed to be a reset and hybrid rebuilding year. The Niners ate $103 million in dead money in 2025. Brock Purdy missed 8 games this season. Mac Jones stepped up, played big-time ball, went 5-3 in those 8 starts. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner lost for the season. Bosa torn ACL, Fred Warner ankle injury. And top to bottom, this has been an organizational win of a season for the Niners. From ownership to the front office, to the coaching staff, to the roster, and the fans are feeling that as well. And obviously, this was the story of the night last night in downtown Indianapolis. The story of the night on Monday Night Football, Brock Purdy. That was the finest game of Purdy's career, and from start to finish, I thought that Purdy was absolutely marvelous in shredding the Indianapolis Colts defense. And it's how he did it, right? Looking so confident, looking so in control, and the performance in general, right? Brock Purdy joining Joe Montana and Steve Young as the only Niners quarterbacks in the history of this organization to throw 5 touchdowns in a game, and he was surgical out there. Whether he was under center, in the shotgun, making plays in structure or out of structure, 25 of 34 on the night, 295 yards, 5 touchdowns and a pick, and a completion percentage over expected of plus 12.8%. And looking the throwing chart here, Brock Purdy was completing passes from sideline to sideline and at all 3 levels, picking apart that Colts defense at will. Now, a lot of the touchdowns came on some of those out routes, but this was a complete Brock Purdy game where from a passing perspective, he passed the eye test, and from a visual standpoint, one of the best games that any quarterback has had in the NFL this year. And don't hit me with, it's the Indianapolis Colts. Scoring-wise, been a pretty solid defense this year. I know they were without Charvarius Ward and Sauce Gardner, but that team still had a lot to play for. they're still fighting for a playoff berth. And Purdy on the road going out there against a desperate opponent and putting together one of the finest games, if not the finest game of his career. I thought Purdy was in total command. He threw a touch in anticipation. We saw the aforementioned explosive plays. Purdy said after the game, Kyle Shanahan was in his bag. Shanahan was cooking with how he was calling and designing this offense, and Purdy was uber efficient. When Brock Purdy plays like this, I'm telling you right now, this Niners team can contend with anybody. Now, we're going to talk about this defense and the concerns I have with this defensive unit. They just have to be good enough. And if the offense plays like this, how they've been playing over the last couple of games, the Cleveland game, the Tennessee game, this Niners team is scary. And as I proposed a little bit earlier, why not San Francisco here in a wide open 2025 in both the NFC and in the AFC? Because this Niners offense, even without Brandon Ayuk, who keeps speeding past Levi's Stadium, according to TMZ, now getting investigated, by the way. No Ricky Pearsall last night. They've had players in and out of the lineup. The offensive line, much improved. Brock Purdy playing at an elite level. George Kittle playing all-world football right now. You're getting contributions from everywhere, and this looks like one of the best offenses in the NFC. Can you imagine this? What if Fred Warner and Nick Bosa were actually on the field and healthy for this Niners defense? These are two of the best overall players in the sport, two of the best players at their position, two of the best defensive players in all of football. If Warner and Bosa were healthy, I think San Francisco would be the favorites to come out of the NFC. But even without those players, they are a threat to represent the NFC in Super Bowl 60, which happens to be at Levi's Stadium. The offense as a whole, 440 yards of total offense last night, 6.7 yards per play, 295 passing yards, 145 rushing yards. Early in the game, they were averaging 6-7 yards per carry, 4.7 for the game. One turnover came late. Kendrick Bourne took the blame for that. I thought the throw from Purdy was a little bit high. And the Niners also winning time of possession. The stars for the Niners starred last night. Robert Saleh coaching, Brock Purdy quarterbacking, Christian McCaffrey getting it done on the ground and through the air. 21 totes for $117 on the ground, 6 catches for 29 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. How about the play of George Kittle of late? 6 touchdowns in his last 8 games, a focal point for this Niners offense as a pass catcher picking up yak in the red zone, but also as a run blocker. Have you noticed that since he came back several weeks ago, this ground game has been a lot better than when it was compared to when he was out? Targeted 8 times last night, 7 catches, 115 yards and a score. The connection between him and Purdy has been dynamite since Purdy came to the league as Mr. Irrelevant back in 2022. Juwan Jennings has also been on fire. This is 7 touchdowns, I think, over his last 5 games. He adds another tutty last night, 5 catches for 71 yards. JJ, Kittle, McCaffrey, Purdy. Those are the key cogs of this offense that's been carrying this team, and they can continue to carry this team. And this is one of the best offenses that I think Kyle Shanahan has fielded of late, and that includes the 2023 team that was maybe more star-studded, but I think the quarterback now compared to then, given the maturation process, is a little bit better. As for a George Kittle injury update, want to get to that as well, because obviously he plays a role in this aforementioned offense. He said after the game he doesn't think he has a high ankle sprain. That's, of course, huge news and a big update. If it was a high ankle sprain, he could miss multiple weeks, and he would probably definitely be out for this Bears game. He thinks he has a low ankle sprain. Now, he said he thought the injury happened in the second quarter when he got hip drop tackled. I thought the visible hip drop tackle that we all saw happened in the third quarter. Maybe Kittle got it mixed up. He's very intense and very involved in the game. He likes to stay present and in the moment, but that's a good sign for him. Maybe not for this Bears game because it's a short week. Niners didn't get home until the wee hours of the morning, but hopefully if he can't play against Chicago, he can play against Seattle. But if it was that high ankle sprain, he might be out for a couple of weeks. Hopefully Kittle responds well to that injury last night. Hopefully he is on the field against Chicago because he makes this team so much better, both in the run game and in the pass game. Now, coming up next, we're only starting to take flight here on today's show. This Niners defense, definitely a concern. And did the NFL screw the Niners with their scheduling going into Sunday Night Football this week in Week 17 against the Bears? Let's first get to our sponsor. Today's 49ers Report is brought to you by PrizePicks. Everybody's favorite PrizePicks holiday promotion is back. 7 days of Picksmas. PrizePicks is giving out 7 days of deals all the way through Christmas Day, including a Christmas Day max discount. Now, Picksmas started on December 20th. It is now December 23rd, so take advantage. Download the app today and unwrap those deals ASAP. Look, it's the holiday season, best time of year for sports, bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once, right? While you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right. That place, PrizePicks. Guess where we were right last night? 3-pick power play for some primetime action. Christian McCaffrey, more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. Check. George Kittle, more than 61.5 receiving yards. Damn near doubled up on that. Check. And then Phillip Rivers, more than 159.5 passing yards. So here's the deal. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Join the millions of users. Sign up today. This is America's #1 fantasy sports app. All you have to do, pick more or less on player stat projections, and you can win some big-time money. All right, let's move ahead here on the show. The Niners' offense on Monday night, electric. Robert Saleh's defense continues to be a big concern. They got filleted at times by the 44-year-old Phillip Rivers, who prior to last week had not played since 2020. And I just wonder, what is going to happen with this Niners defense when they have to go up against the likes of the Chicago Bears, who are coming to Levi's Stadium on Sunday night, led by the dynamic play caller in Ben Johnson, and quarterback Caleb Williams, who has a plethora of weapons around him. What the biggest issue here is that the Niners are incapable of generating a pass rush. Since Nick Bosa's been out, they've been one of the worst pass rushing units in the NFL. And so some of these legit and mobile quarterbacks could have a field day if they don't have any worries about them being under siege, because the Niners can't penetrate and get after the quarterback. So these QBs are able to drop back, go through their progressions, and pick apart this defense. And it's unfair to ask your secondary to hold up for so long. We even saw Phillip Rivers having explosive plays and a really good performance against this Niners team as he threw for almost 300 yards. Now, to the Niners' credit, last night, much better against the run in stopping Jonathan Taylor compared to what happened against Tennessee the week prior when they gave up nearly 7 yards per carry. And you look at how this Niners defense fared, 312 yards allowed on offense to this Indy team. 5.4 yards per play, 254 yards through the air, 20 carries for 58 yards, only 2.9 yards per carry. That's going to have to translate to this Bears game because Ben Johnson is kind of like the Midwest Kyle Shanahan. I mean, he loves running the football. The Niners able to generate the pick 6 by D winners and the fumble on special teams. That was huge, and that's the formula for this Niners team when the offense is humming like this. Another positive spin with this Niners defense. The first 2 drives, they got fried by Phillip Rivers. He had more passing yards in the first quarter than he did the week before in that entire game against Seattle. And on those first 2 drives, the Colts, 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. But then the Niners and Robert Saleh made some in-game adjustments. Next 7 drives, 140 yards, the D-winner 75-yard pick 6, the sack fumble, which resulted in a huge loss as Alfred Collins punched that ball loose out of the grasp of Phillip Rivers. Now, it was amazing to watch Phillip Rivers do what he did last night. Clearly, not mobile, never really was. Clearly, doesn't have that much of a strong arm anymore, never really did when he was in his prime, putting together what I believe was a Hall of Fame career. But because of how smart and savvy he is, he was still able to find success. 23 of 35 last night, 277, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Obviously, the interception was costly, but the game pretty much decided at that point, or at least very unlikely, that the Colts were going to stage a comeback and a quarterback rating of 97. I respect him for coming out of retirement to try to save this Colts season. I respect him for the love that he has for the game of football and the intensity that you saw last night. He's always been known to be an intense guy, and last night he was locked the F in. And the ask is very simple for the rest of the year for this Niners defense, right? All this Niners defense has to do is be a little bit better. And you combine that with this offense, this Niners team can really beat anybody. But they have to make some subtle improvements in order to make that happen. All right, let's get to this to round out the show. Have the 49ers been screwed by the NFL? Here's what I mean by this. The NFL did the Niners no favors with their scheduling going into this big Bears game on Sunday night, which could determine the number 1 seed in the NFC. Now, I understand the Niners have had one of the easiest schedules in the NFL this year. They had the latest bye that you could have in Week 14. But check this out. I was doing some thinking on my walk to work. The Bears beat the Packers on Saturday at home. The Niners beat the Colts on Monday Night Football on the road in the Eastern time zone. The Niners didn't get home until the wee hours of the morning, and it's Christmas week. I imagine this Niners coaching staff, they might have to pop a lot of Adderall, take down a lot of coffee, because they probably got right back to work today, and they may have pulled all-nighters, watching some film on the plane ride, and then right back to work to try to start the preparations for Chicago. The Bears also aren't a familiar opponent. It's not like the Niners are playing the Seahawks here when they know what to expect from a divisional team that you play twice a year. So the Bears here, a big rest and scheduling advantage in this Week 17 game. But either way, can't wait for this one on Sunday Night Football. Get your popcorn ready. Look at how things stand in the NFC playoff picture going into this tilt. Seahawks the 1 seed at 12-3. The Bears still in the running for the number 1 seed at 11-4. So the Seahawks, Bears, Eagles, they've all clinched playoff spots. Niners clinched a playoff spot. Rams clinched a playoff spot. The 2 teams remaining currently in the NFC playoff picture who have not, Panthers fighting for the NFC South Championship, and the Green Bay Packers fighting potentially for the divisional title, if not a wild card spot. Going to be fascinating to see how things play out the last 2 weeks of the 2025 campaign. All right, don't forget to give me a follow on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Chase_Senior. Just started my TikTok page. We're already over 5,000 followers, so I appreciate all the real ones who have given me a follow over there. We'll be back a little bit later with the preview of this Niners-Bears game. Be on the lookout for that, and that's why you subscribe to the program.